to order. Sunshine Law, the Runnymede Board of Education meeting is called to order. The Board of Education is in compliance with the Sunshine regulations. This meeting was appropriately advertised by notifying the retrospect as well as posting notices in Borough Hall, the Runnymede Post Office, Maryville School, Orion Bingham School, and Grace Downing School. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call board members.
Angel Beebe. Here. Naomi Davidson.
Here.
Amy Farley.
Here.
Colleen Kirk.
Here.
Maria, absent. Patricia Smith. Here. Samantha Spalding.
Here.
Lynn Terrello.
Here.
And John Moore.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
At this time, we are going to open up the floor for public comments on any agenda items. Does anybody have any questions on any of the agenda items this evening? There's only a few. No? No. We will not be going into executive session this evening, so we will move then right along to finance. We need to approve the following on the recommendation of the superintendent, and that is the 2012-2013 proposed school budget. I would like all the board members to take as much time as they need to. 4 of us met last week and previously before the meeting tonight to go over some things. So I don't want anyone voting unless they have questions. So take your time to look at it, circle, ask questions, because we had this information since
I have
for
a
a
question
while.
as far as the fire marshal wanting to replace the doors. Has there been a new regulation come down that states that this has to happen?
Fireproofing doors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like recently, this is a new regulation?
I don't know how recent, but he was here for the inspection, and it's something that we have to address. And I spoke to other BAs, or at least one definitely said that their fire marshal did the same thing. So she's addressing it as well.
I want to make. Can I get a motion in a second and then go for questions? No.
My bad.
Motion made by Colleen, seconded by John. Thank you. I'm sorry. And I want you to take your time and ask as many questions as you need. And just so you know, because we asked where they got that number, and that was Garrison's number.
Oh, okay.
So was the resurfacing of the gym floor, that $18,000 mark there, Garrison's number.
The back gym.
What?
Yes.
The back gym. The shelving is the Bingham Library that, needs to be done, was done recently, but just is also another fire hazard issue. Do you hear that? Okay. The curbing issue is up, all the curbs up on that are falling apart. It is our responsibility to do that in front of Bingham School. So up Orchard Avenue, where of course our property is. Salt spreader for the truck is just something that can be added on to one of our vehicles for our parking lots.
It'll reduce the purchase service that we pay now for someone else to do that for us, for the salt spreader. It should actually pay for itself within a year.
I'll also,
Talk about the changes.
okay, the wireless, also at Bingham, the wireless that folds and add wireless to Bingham and Downing. When we were talking in the committee meeting, we felt as though an area that we were lacking in the Runnymede School District is all the technology with the new age. So actually we asked, if you go up to technology where it says iPads and iPad carts, to be completely honest, we were going to get 2. One for Volts and one for an elementary school. And the committee felt as though, just because that's how much, our administrators didn't know how we would feel about that. So we felt very strongly about that, so we told them they need to take $20,000 out of this capital outlay somewhere and add it to iPads and the cart, because there's no way that 2 of our schools should have iPads and carts and not 3. So it's actually going to be, it's actually going to be a $45,000 for iPads and iPad cart.
And that's just a real rough estimate, maybe
Right.
less than that. We just figured we'll put 20,000 towards it.
We
So
just
make
came
sure
up
we
with a
have enough
figure.
money for,
Correct, now,
you know.
how many has you
I
talking
think there's 25 on the cart.
25 in a cart, so it would be
So
75 iPads with carts.
Gotcha.
So that way, you know, the middle schoolers can use it and the lower elementary school can use it, because there's so many wonderful apps for learning. And, you know, the use of technology is just so important. And since we had the, you know, additional state aid, we were under the administration that feels as though they still will be able to do everything here. They're optimistic that they still will be able to do everything underneath here. You know, the curbing, the shelves, the gym floor, enhance the wireless, and do the doors, and still, even with taking that money and putting it up with technology.
We've gotten some quotes on the iPads and iPad carts. You know, this is the future, and this is important for our children. So we're pleased that the committee wanted to put even more into the technology. I'm thrilled about that.
Now, is that with the hopes that you certainly add to this each year? This is something that you're. this
What
is
happens
gonna-
when we're out of date? And operate?
Very good question, Mr. Work. One of the considerations that we may have will be to do a lease purchase, and then every 4 years, or wherever the length of the lease is, you're allocating the same amount of money in your budget, but you're refreshing and getting new ones. So that's an excellent question.
And you give the old ones back, is that?
We give, yes,
You
for
never
the
really
lease
own them,
purchase,
right?
we turn them back in.
Get the current-
Usually 4 years tops for equipment like this.
Because it's outdated.
It's out.
You know, they're coming out with a new one already, you know, in
You
the
can
spring.
turn your old one in.
Well,
and
we're
you get
gonna-
some money for it, but it's not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
school,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
I'm sure.
So our quote will be going in for the newer ones.
For the newer ones, and for, if we look at this, we're looking at, without a lease purchase, we very likely can cover 3 carts, 1 for each school, but with a lease purchase, we may be able to get 4 or 5. So it was too soon for us to be able to get all that information together, but at the base, if you can let us have that much money, we know we can at least get 1 cart for each school.
Does each classroom in all of our classes have a functioning computer that's connected to the internet?
At least 1, but not as many as we would like.
But every classroom for the teacher to utilize for her needs, things like that?
Occasionally they go down, but yes, there is at least 1, to the best of my knowledge, that is internet.
And you'll also see that we added some more for whiteboards and projection system.
And that's for Bingham and Downing. This school is almost 100% done. Bingham and Downing, the 3rd grade classrooms all have them, the library and computer centers have them, but K1 and 2 doesn't have them.
And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the money, the projectors like that project to the boards.
How many can you get for that price, the whiteboards and projection system?
Well, that's probably, depends on what we get. We're looking at a couple of different models. There's one model that is only about $1,500. What I think we'll do is pilot maybe 2 of them to see whether or not it gives us the functionality that we want. And then between $3,000 and $5,000 for the other ones. We always do a good job of getting the best bang for our buck. There have been times when we've been able to get 2 for the price of 1, those kinds of things. So we'd be looking at between 4 and 6 at this point, covering 2 grades.
Make sure you have an even amount so they go evenly in the 2
Mhm.
schools.
When we have to enhance the wireless, obviously has nothing to do with the PA systems
No.
that we redid, or the wiring for the lights. So this is rewiring for hotspot type
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
stuff? Is that
That's
what
what
it is?
we'll, that's what we'll need.
For the iPads?
Right, we need,
Correct.
that's it. We're gonna bring iPads in. We've got hotspots now. We're pretty good with wireless in this building, but if we're gonna start putting more wireless technology in, we need to add some additional hotspots, so absolutely, that's what it is.
Who's gonna, I guess, be in charge of security of all that kind of stuff? Like passwords and what the kids can get on and get
That's
off?
gonna be our technology coordinator. Our permissions, our procedures, all of that.
Well, I guess, and then the second question comes in is, where do we have the capability to make sure they're secure?
In a cart, except when
Yeah,
we,
well, don't those carts disappear in other school districts? Don't you see that?
the
on
big
news?
cart,
I don't know.
The
Is it
carts-
gonna be an issue with steps at Bingham and Downing?
Well, what's gonna have to happen is, it's gonna have to live, for instance, not on the bottom floor at Bingham, but on the first floor. And then if the teachers who are in the smaller classes downstairs wanna use them, they'll have to share the cart with another class, and the children will have to share it. They'll just have to pull the iPads out, bring them downstairs, and then bring them back up for charging.
it's like a cart
So
that
it
has
be a
little, it
sign-in
has,
sheet, sign up sheet, this teacher, pull that, and, so this way, the teacher can plan her lesson and say, on Tuesday, I'm using it, sign up ahead of time, so this way the other teachers can plan their schedules around it also.
Right, right. I think it'll be very sought after. The other thing, and Mrs. Spalding brought this up, is how are we gonna train our teachers? And we'll absolutely have to train them, because it's pointless to bring in technology unless you also train your teachers as to how to use them. We've already begun to do some preliminary work on how you sync them. There is something called a volume purchasing plan that you do. It's an iTunes account that's especially designed for schools and school districts, and you select the applications, the teachers select the applications, and then we purchase the application and we sync them all in the same place. It's a pretty slick technology, pretty neat way of doing it, and then you hand them back out and they have what they need.
And what can they do?
what can they
Many,
do?
many.
Okay.
Applications for as simple as mathematics, note-taking, speech to text, flashcards.
I know Angry Birds.
Writing,
Writing, education.
Writing their name, learning cursive, writing, like, it's unbelievable.
There are-
But I wouldn't know how to do it, so
thousands
that's
of
why I
apps.
said, like, who's training? I don't,
Yeah,
I
there are
know.
thousands of apps for,
Okay.
for tiny ones all the way to high school, so. And it's getting bigger. As a matter of fact, this is too premature for this district, but Apple just paired with every major book company, and for $14.99, there are many textbooks that will be available. We're not planning to go there yet, but I just think that this is the future, and we need to start getting our foot into the pond here, what the future's gonna bring. I envision that by the time little Sammy Spalding is in 8th grade, he won't be carrying a textbook anymore. Or in 6th grade, he won't be carrying a textbook anymore. Because, by the time your twins are partway through elementary school, they should be having an iPad or an iPad type of device, and that's what they will be doing. I'm looking at skepticism on your face.
Just cut down the tree and make a book.
Uh-oh, Mrs. She, you're gonna let her say that? Oh,
No.
yeah, right?
I
have
said a
it
new
down,
one.
you gotta plan too.
I
That's
will.
right.
Too.
That's right.
Evergreens, they can put more oxygen, just so you know.
So that is what,
You're a tree person too.
yes, that is what, with our additional CD, that is what, does anybody have any questions, suggestions, concerns?
Actually, I have one about, paying off the debt.
I mean, right here on this
Yeah,
page,
we're doing the budget.
we're doing budget right now, Mr.
I
Warren.
know,
When you get, if they purchase these cards and Apple does it, does somebody from Apple come train you? Do you get a
Well,
contract with them?
we've already made contact with an Apple technician, technician person. He's an integration specialist, and he's coming either tomorrow or one day next week just to get us started on it. We actually have purchased a few already.
Okay.
So, they do send an expert, and the technology coordinator, Jeanette, and I have already gone to one training, and there will be many more trainings in the future, and as well as visits to schools that are using it, so we can get the practical application for what the rollout would be.
Do you have any other questions up here? What was being proposed, Mrs. Hunt?
I know it's not open comment on, but being a kindergarten teacher, I've taken my Nook tablet to school and I've downloaded books for my son. The kids are mesmerized by it. They love it. My 5-year-old has my husband's old tablet, and you can get books, apps on there, and the kids just, they adore it. And it's something they're interested in, and like the little ones, when they're learning to read, they can help find the sight words, because the books, some of the books actually read to them. So it is a technology that can be used throughout the grades, and the kids really love it, because half the kids actually have tablets, their parents at home, that they're using.
That's it, we are finding that a lot of kids have to power down when they come to school, because there's so much paper. When they're at home, there's a lot of electronics that are available to them, and they use them, that's how they learn, that's a lot of what they do. So I think it's important to start engaging them in the way that they live, so they don't have to power down so much.
Any other questions?
The fire marshal doors, like, it says that he wants them to be replaced. Do they have to be replaced? Is there like a state statute? Do we have to spend all that money right away to get them done? Can we do it gradually so that we don't have to put all that money out there like that?
It's my understanding that, well, it is a requirement, but I think he will work with us in making sure that he sees our progression, that we're addressing that, because it's not only that, there's other fireproofing things too that need to be addressed because
It's
of
like
the
a step down kind of thing.
And that's where he's
Gotcha. Just checking.
I mean, how many doors are we talking? So I'm just sitting here counting myself.
I mean, it's just a lot
These
more.
are just the
you know,
stairwell
for
doors.
these
Oh, I know, and that's-
examples.
that was
So
stairwells
we
and
know
downings,
where
so-
it's
But
at.
eventually they would like.
It's
Yeah,
a lot,
I think
it's a lot of money for
6
a
sets and
district
4
like us.
sets and they're double doors. I'm sorry, I
I think it was 6 sets and
This is
4
right, that's
sets
where
and
we
they're
got the
double
number.
doors. So I think it's 12 and 8.
Yeah, so I know. in the
Fireproof, does that mean
States,
replacing?
Yeah.
With the
8
fire
and 12
rating?
doors in
Yeah,
there.
completely replacing that whole doorway.
It's
When
R&R.
you go upstairs, down to the main office, that entryway, the doors there.
Now, I know my biggest thing, I know when they were replacing like classroom doors or something, the windows were so tall that we as staff members were very concerned about the safety of little children with doors swinging open and shut. Is there a choice of what type of fireproof door can be installed in the elementary schools just to ensure that the glass that's in them is low enough that you're gonna be able to see a child standing on the other side of that door?
You're not gonna swing the door open and let
Correct,
a child
correct,
out.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we would be looking for that.
We'll put a peephole in, we'll have several.
See
But I mean,
the
just
little head on
the
other
entrance,
side.
No, I
the
totally
entrance doors to
understand,
the
'cause I
buildings
just
right
like
now,
somebody,
they are,
opening up the door.
right, exactly. They're really too tall to see a child standing on the other side of the glass anyway.
Well, especially because they're going on the steps
Yeah.
to the office.
Yep.
Under the line, the, items there, items for consideration, they are being moved from the Ed Jobs Fund to the general fund budget. That's all that's happening there.
It's for informational purposes, things
Yeah.
that had to be built back into our budget.
And,
Because the Ed Jobs Fund is
No
no
longer-
longer.
no longer.
Right, okay,
Mhm.
right.
and then under that, the fixed increases included, are things like our REA, the health, you know, the contract, the no anticipated retirements of certified staff, we haven't been notified. Utilities obviously go up every year, and the, administrator, principal's contract. There. And then, there are line items, you know, you can go through and see what is where, and, Joe, wait,
This first page with the heavy bars.
do you wanna explain that, cause I probably wasn't.
The first sheet was the revenue summary, and there was a comparison between what's proposed, a revised amount from our current year, 11-12, and then the actual from 10-11 as well. And in the 12-13 proposed column, it includes our state aid notification that we got and the other revenues that are proposed. And you come down to the total budget, which includes our debt service, which will no longer be. And I think Mr. Wark had a question about that, but I can address that for item number 2.
Thank you.
And also my estimate for our federal and state grants, and you can take a look and compare that to our current year. Total wise, it's very close. If you look at the bottom line, it's very close. And then the other spreadsheets are all of the line items summarized the way our Department of Education has its software set up in the different groupings. And again, there's 3 columns comparing the last 3 years, the actual from 10-11, revised for our current year, and the proposed for this year. The last column is percentage change from the current year, our current year to our proposed. Some of those percentages will look really high, but that could be as much as an item that went from $100 to $200 is going to show a 100% increase. So you got to really look at, if you're focusing on the percentage, you also have to look at those dollar amounts to get an idea of, wow, it's a big increase or that's a big decrease, but then take a look at the amount too to see if something doesn't look quite right to you. And then the last 2 pages, the tax comparison by school year is the second to the last. Again, it shows the school year basis taxes, and then at the bottom is the tax calculation for the borough, because the borough is 1.5 year on that. So that the net effect at the bottom you'll see is the total increase proposed at the very lower right-hand corner. And
Does everybody understand the difference, especially our newer board members, when Joanne says half year? They are on a calendar year and we're on a fiscal. So when we look at tax impact, we're calculating off of half a year, the half of years that we come together.
Right.
That we're in the same year.
Right. So on our budget, because we're on the fiscal year, the amount actually, if you take a look at that for the 10 to 12, 13, it would actually be, if everybody was on the same fiscal year, it would be actually decreasing by 1.5 cents. But because of the half year guide, the borough is on the calendar year, and you have to take the average of half of last year's as well, and then half of this proposed year, the total proposed increase is 5 cents. And that very last page shows you the preliminary tax impact on the average assessed value, which is $99,241. And taking the 5 cents, it comes out to an average increase for the year of $49.62, or by the month $4.14.
So I'm just gonna repeat that for the public, since you don't have all these numbers, so I can give our board members who didn't see this time to look through some of the information that they're just receiving tonight. So our preliminary tax impact for the 2012 and 2013 budget on an average assessed value home, which in Runnymede is $99,241, is going to be an increase of $49.62 a year, or $4.14 per month. But at this time, you know, I know you guys didn't have the chance to look through it. The 4 of you who weren't in the committee meeting, is there anything that you see that, you know, stands out, or you have any questions about? I know that it's a lot of information for you to receive to make an informed vote.
I think one point to make also with the assessed value of a home, it's not the market value of the home, it's the
Right.
tax assessed
Right,
Yes.
value
on
of
your,
the home.
and
It's
that's
on your
what is
statement.
on your
It's on your bill, right?
Right.
That's really, because lots of people get
And
confused with that.
we don't
number
set that.
99,000, the base, Joanne, she got that from the borough.
Yes.
The borough
The
gave her
borough
that,
sets that.
you know, that's the
not-
average
we don't do that.
assessed value home.
Right.
Did you say out loud that this year's number would be less than last year's number? I'm asking, just so they.
No, I didn't say that, no.
Okay.
Where are we at? Where are
The
we at?
Well,
increase
because
is
the
less this
increase.
year.
Oh,
I
the
just wanted-
increase,
I just
yes.
wanted to make sure that they heard that it was less,
Thank you, no.
that it's less this year than it was last year.
Yeah, last year was 8 cents. This year.
Last year
Last
was 8 cents.
this year's 5.
This year it's 5.
Okay, I wanna make sure
I
you
knew
do.
that.
That's all.
Just making sure you're paying attention.
I know it.
She knows.
I was here last year.
Mrs. Mayor stays on top of these.
You have any questions, John?
Nope.
No? Patty? You're good? Amy and Lynn?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out where it was one of these.
Okay.
In the beginning, one of these, acronyms, I didn't know what the letters, under tuitions, what is CSSD?
County Special Services.
Special Services. Gotcha.
So that's Gloucester County.
Right. Thanks.
Angel, you okay?
Yes, thank you.
Is it possible to get this the day before next year?
Yes.
Just the numbers so that I can at least really.
Yes.
Yeah, that, and it probably depends on the cutoff and when we get our numbers, because
Right.
sometimes.
I'm not saying a week, I don't,
Oh, I know,
just mean
no,
at
I
least.
know, but sometimes.
12 hours.
sometimes
I'll
it
sit
depends
here
on
right now for
the
12
number.
hours if you wanna go through it.
No, I'm just saying.
I know,
12
honestly,
hours
like, that's
would be
why
nice.
I'm not kidding, like, I know it's a lot to go through, especially your first time around. Because, you know, this is like my 7th time around, I'm like, what? You know, it's a lot to digest, I
It
understand.
is, and with the governor, when we get the numbers from him, sometimes doesn't always give us the time to even absorb any of it.
Now, the calculations as far as our state aid, were you pretty sure that this was the number we were gonna get, or
Yes.
were you pleasantly surprised?
Oh, this is more than what we budgeted for the same, and we wound up getting a little more.
Okay.
So that's
And that's
good.
why we were
Because
able to
when
address
we
the
met
capital
last time,
outlay.
when the committee met last week,
We did a run.
we didn't have a number check.
Right, I know.
And so a lot of it was, well, we hope we get this, but, you know, we don't know whether we're getting more or less.
Right.
We
We're
made
still
a wish
not
list,
at
right?
50% the equation, correct?
No.
We're still at 39 or 36, is that?
39.
39?
Can you explain that percentage so that our public understands that as far as state aid?
The funding percentage, well, their calculation, I could never understand how they calculate what they're gonna give us. And actually, this year, in the state aid figures, they actually gave us different categories of aid that we didn't have before. They gave us transportation aid, which we didn't have before. They gave us,
Security aid.
security aid, which we didn't have before.
Well, we had it, transportation and security, you may remember, those of you that have been around for a long time, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joanne, that we had it in prior years, and then in 10 and 11, they took it away. In 10, they significantly reduced our special education aid, but they're gradually restoring what we got a couple of years, like in 08, 09, we used to get that aid. So now, for some reason, it's magically reappeared. The other thing that happens is Joanne has to load all this into the budget software from the state, and really it was just yesterday that she could get it all in and it all made sense. So, but certainly next year you can have at least a day before.
I'll answer a question that I know you have.
She can read mine.
Or not.
Okay.
It was asked in a committee meeting if, the teachers would have enough money for supplies, because that's a common, you know, interest that we have.
Yep.
And, the teachers told the principals, who in turn told the, central administration that the supply money in here is enough.
To cover.
Built from the bottom up.
Okay. Didn't get a new pencil sharpener?
If they put it
Put it
in
on
their
our list.
budget.
Okay.
I have one real quick question.
Yes.
I can read mine, see?
Let me tell you, the pencil sharpener issue has come up many times. They're expensive.
federal
Yes, they
aid.
are.
Under what?
Under federal aid.
Yes.
Why is it only good all the way down? Do you lose that much money from that?
That's the arrow. Is that what it is?
It goes from 70,
Oh.
20, 2009, 2010, from 70.
Yes, that, back then it could have been the ARA funding, back then. Yeah, and when you really
That's a
take a look
deficit.
at it, they just
Yeah, they're false.
keep moving
I always
money around and
yeah.
calling it different
It's,
things.
Always.
It starts with security, then goes transportation. Did you get it?
Yeah, found it.
It's on your revenue.
So it cost us in 10-11, 4,000 in the hole for food.
And again, you know why, because we don't have, you know, the work in our own kitchen and the work,
But
the
even
way
if we had our own
to
kitchen,
generate money.
a lot of schools, I mean, you talk in elementary schools, they don't make a big profit off of that because you have to hire the staff to work it.
Right, but we're losing,
Yeah.
Right, and the.
we're not
and-
making
and
any
I mean,
profit, we're
realistically,
losing
does
a
that
lot of
fall
money.
to break
under-
even anyway.
If you were to divide that out, is that because technically it's falling under free and reduced and we're picking up the difference of that? No,
That's it.
it is 8.
Mhm.
Is it 8 enough?
There isn't a deficit because of free and reduced, would you say?
No, that wouldn't cause
doesn't add to
that,
the
your salaries and benefits and the cost of food, making the food, unfortunately,
Doesn't
we're
happen.
paying more or less kind of twice because
Okay.
we got the middleman.
Question, I see what textbooks are on the dot, doesn't look like anything for the elementaries, am I looking at this correctly? Under undistributed textbooks for Bingham,
They don't use very many textbooks these days, they use many more consumable materials.
okay,
Workbooks, things like that.
so where does their consumable budget come in? Where does that fall?
It's in the supplies, it's in the 610s.
In supplies, okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
That's probably why it jumped so much from, right? That's why it jumped.
Yeah, but it's a huge jump in Bolts, when Bolts is still using textbooks.
They're, well, in 10,
In
11,
this
12.
past year, right, I mean, it goes down
It
for
goes
next
down,
year, correct.
Right. Right, because they're using textbooks, we sometimes need to buy a number of new textbooks to replace ones that have, you know, been damaged. Then also we did an adoption, we did an math, upper grade math adoption, we did a 7th grade math adoption in this current year. And I believe we got some additional health textbooks, we added another grade.
When they did the grade cut of, what was that, 08, 09? Or was that 9, 10? 9, 10 was the grade cut. When they, it was a bad time.
It was awful, we're still feeling it.
Right, so when that happened, and in that budget time, when we then, I guess, cut teachers, right? And I guess what I'm asking is, how many teachers, if we take away the retired people, and how many teachers are we down for our kids than what we were then, now, into this budget?
We are down 3 teachers.
3 teachers. And those areas affected for those 3 are,
Basic skills,
okay,
and there was a teacher who did gifted talents in programming.
okay,
And also we had 2 librarians, and now with the retirement of our librarian 2 years ago, we have 1 librarian and 2 buildings.
okay. And as far as like extracurricular, like clubs, stipends, like when we vote on the stipends and things like that?
We took away assistant coaches,
Okay,
so they just have one coach.
okay.
And they did take away some clubs, didn't they? Some things.
They
They
consolidated some
some of
And
clubs.
we just added one this
What we
year.
did is we didn't grow, we stayed neutral. So we didn't add anything new.
So is there any room for growth in here for,
We just added, drama, so that's,
right, but I'm saying, is there still some playing room in here, like if they wanted to do a club at elementary schools, or is there no room for that?
We didn't put any money in for that, wasn't requested.
Okay.
We usually see the interest initially for, say, a staff member to want to have some type of club.
and if you read the principal's report, like when they put out that first little interest for drama, it was huge, right? A lot of kids. So that's good, because I know that our other two sending school districts to our high schools, I know Belmar's huge, I know Gloucester Township, it's huge in the middle schools, they all have musicals. So it's good now that our kids will have that step, because the experience to maybe, they want to lead, when they're a freshman, instead of the freshman boy lead who's a Belmar kid this year. Good.
And that's something we used to do here all the time when we were kids.
And we're very fortunate, we have, one of our teachers is very well trained in theater and does theater and musical theater. He belongs to several different theater groups, so has done it with children for years.
So the debt service goes away, and
Bond.
then,
The bond is, that will be paid off
right, and that's paid off this year,
March 15th.
right? So if that money isn't there, how much is that, like roughly a year that we would allot for that? So obviously that's not in here, is what I'm saying.
For the 12-13, there's no money being allotted for debt service because the bond is actually gonna be paid off in the next 2 weeks.
Right, so we're not allowed, other than the capital outlay you have of 235,500, we're not allowed to have, I guess, a savings account, or are we allowed? I'm using the word savings account, but that's not the right word.
But
An escrow
you understand
account,
you're
an
right.
account to a what if rainy day fund,
That-
like the heaters go.
Capital reserve.
Yes. That's good, that's
That
a
would,
good.
yeah, we have 165, 168, I forget what the exact number is reserved right now for our capital reserve, for emergencies or something breaks and we don't, and we have, we don't have it in the budget, it has to be fixed. That's what we have right now. As far as the debt service, that was from a bond referendum from, I think it was 1997, so the last payment on that is due March 15th. So you wouldn't have another bond payment for debt service unless the district went out for a new bond referendum for a project. And right now, that's kind of on hold right now.
Because there's no state money coming
Right,
through.
right.
Even though
Right, so what I propose in these capital outlays is to start to address some of the things. And in addition to, there's always the opportunity that come the end of the year, if, for some reason we see that we have a couple $1,000 left, we can have a resolution to put more money into the capital reserve. Just to keep saving for those rainy day issues that, districts are faced with unexpectedly because you don't plan for disaster.
And is there a cap for that reserve?
Yes, the number is fairly high. I want to say it's over 600,000 for us. It's a calculation, and it's in the software itself, so I can get you the exact number.
No, that's good. The estimation's good.
So not to play devil's advocate, but what do we pick up extra? If we're not paying,
What did we pick?
if we're not paying back the loan payment, what did we pick up extra?
what did we add to the budget with the money that we're realizing from not having to pay the debt service?
That's it.
Okay.
The items here that I highlighted, plus the fact that we also had to pick up in the budget all the things that we lost from ed.
The special ed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Ed Jobs Fund.
And the other was fund.
Last year, we had an that was part of our federal allocation. Ed Jobs was, right, that was federal. So, we had that much money, 169, 167,579.
That's that would be the impact for this year.
That's the impact for this year. So,
Okay, I got it.
we had to absorb it into the budget.
You good? Are you good?
I'm fine.
Roll call.
Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Colleen Kirk?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Now, there's also a motion on, I also need a motion to authorize the school business administrator to pay the final debt service payment due March 15th in the amount of $250,000, principal plus an outstanding interest of $6,562.50.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Amy, seconded by Colleen. Mr. Ward, you have a question?
Nope, already answered.
You're good?
Yep.
Anybody else have a question?
And what was your answer?
Everything that Amy was discussing.
Just wanna make sure.
What happened when we paid
I
off?
sat back and listened.
Where was the gap at when we paid off the debt, and where did
Gotcha.
it go?
Okay.
It's all covered.
He spoke to me.
He
Now,
can
better
read-
mind.
He can read minds too. Roll call.
Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Colleen Kirk?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Under property and transportation, we need a motion to approve the PTA bingo use of facilities. Motion made by Patty,
I'll second.
seconded by Angel. Any questions? Roll call.
Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Colleen Kirk?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Under personnel, we need a motion to approve, 2 teachers to be approved to, do homebound instruction.
Make a motion?
Motion made by Naomi,
Seconded.
seconded by Patty. Any questions?
Just knowing these 2 preschool teachers are the children that, are these just to be added to our list of homebound instructors, or is this?
We have an anticipated need for a preschool child needing homebound instruction.
Okay, so
So
these are
that's
both.
why we are planning preschool.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call.
Angel Beebe? Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Colleen Kirk?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
At this time, we are open for public comment. The public is reminded that all public complaints against a district employee must be made through a specific grievance process. A description of this process may be found in Board of Ed Policy File Code 1312. This policy is available upon request in the Office of the Board Secretary. Any individual naming an employee in a complaint before the Board of Education without the employee's permission could be cited for violating that employee's civil and contractual rights. Any public comment? Hi.
Hi, Pat Tartaglia Passio, Councilwoman of Borough of Runnymede. Can you please explain transportation aid and security aid?
They're new this year, the transportation aid, as far as the state giving them, like, I'm not following, explain it, how it's calculated,
You
because I
me-
couldn't possibly tell you.
Well,
how
you
it's
mentioned
calculated.
transportation aid, exactly what is it?
Well, schools typically, especially in the last couple of years, don't get aid for transportation, and unfortunately, it's.
Would that be busing?
Exactly.
So are we going to get busing back into our school system?
We have,
We still have buses.
we have quite a bit of transportation costs for busing for, not only, those who live remotely, but for the special ed going to out-of-district placements, going to the special, school districts in Gloucester County Special, School District, as well as when a student, is placed outside of this district and is required by the state to be bused back here. that becomes a big burden also on the district as well, and we have a few of those situations too, so they're
Just so you know,
unexpected.
about $18,000. Our
That's the aid.
transportation costs far exceed.
I believe it was like when we were going through budget cuts, it was about $200,000 to keep the busing that we may have had when I went to school or when your children went to school. So that's why we had the,
We didn't have busing when they went to school
No.
either.
okay, I don't know.
Yeah, and just to give you an example, that 18,000 could actually be the cost of one child that is remote to Runnymede, that we're required by law to bus back because it's educationally sound for that child to remain in this district. That could be the cost of just one child for that purpose.
When
So
DICE
that aids in
removes
no
a child,
relationship.
that- there's a new regulation in the state of New Jersey called stability placements. So if DICE were to remove a child from our school district and send the child somewhere else, and as a matter of fact, we do have a situation where a child is in Burlington County, and that child in Burlington County for educational stability must be bused from the home in Burlington County back to Runnymede, and that cost, we've already determined, is gonna probably be over $18,000 for this year, so.
And that's our responsibility to pay for that busing.
Right, like, that's our responsibility.
And no aid comes from the state or anyone else for that child to be
No.
taught here?
Nope.
No.
Nope. And security aid is calculated on the number of students we have who receive free and reduced lunch. So when they say security, they don't mean it's hiring extra people. They mean that they recognize that there's an impact on our district when we have a poverty rate, and ours happens to be 37% based on the free and reduced lunch student applications. So they recognize that it may cost more to educate children who are children of poverty. And so that we get about $30,000 for that.
Why do they call it security aid?
Just a term that they use, as security of those children to make sure that their program is enhanced. I don't know where they call it that, but that's what was described to us when we asked. We didn't get it the last 2 years, I don't think, so it was restored in this year's budget.
And like Dr. Ward said, 37% of our children fall in that poverty rate that come to the Runnymede Public Schools.
Well, it's tough economic times, it's not hard to imagine
No, not at all.
that it happens that way.
Do you have any other questions?
One other question, gifted program. We no longer have a gifted program in this school?
We have a gifted
We
program
do.
throughout the district, but we don't have a separate teacher who pulls children out of a classroom. Our gifted programming is to identify children who are based on multiple measures, and their program is differentiated. So they're given more accelerated reading, mathematics, things like that. So they get that within the classroom, and then over at Bingham and Downing, they do still have a program that's Mrs. Jordan and Mrs. Karpiak-Malloy run, the art and the library media teacher
Okay.
run that program.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have a question, with the eye touches,
Please.
my name's Patty Gunn. With the eye touches that you were talking about. and the
iPads.
card, the iPads, eventually could that, be used for the children that need, an Excel program like when my daughter was, we called it SPY. I think they changed it to Challenge, but that, those, I sound so computer illiterate when I say that, but that process could actually aid in the
Oh,
children
there's
that.
so many
they
apps.
could
There's so
just-
many applications that they could use
It's
to
good for
enhance their
struggling
education.
children, it's good to enhance the instructional program. You're absolutely right. Mrs.
There's also, I know for I'm a special education teacher by trade, that's my job. I know that there's grants out there that I'm gonna try and get some information on, that, like, you can get an iPad for the kid even to take home, through a grant for special needs, because the government recognizes how awesome of a tool it is to help with learning, so.
Here's another one, do you have to grant search yourselves, or is there a grant
It's
operator, or
It's
do you have to do that on
DIY,
your
we
own,
do it
or-
ourselves.
There are a lot of grants out there, and I imagine it's really time consuming to just go through it all.
If you're ever not busy, you can sure look up
I
something
have
else.
to, I have to
That's
say
how you
this,
do
to
it.
hear the supply situation and having a computer in one room and possibly not working, I really, as a taxpayer resident, I didn't know these were really holding your own fairly with some things. I mean, it's.
But when we got
We
extra
need
money,
more.
we decided we better put it into technology.
You really do a good job. I'm shocked when you were saying about the computer and you don't have more than one computer in some of the rooms. I thought you had computer labs, like
We do
tremendous
have
amount.
labs,
and-
we have labs, we have a lab in each school. In this school, we have a small lab and a big lab, so we do, but computing inside the classrooms is very important.
Yes, very.
Yeah, both of the behind you, they're both computer labs there, but we can't have a computer lab in the classroom, you know? We wish, there's just no room, you remember, to have this
Oh,
size of
yeah.
classroom.
And we're gonna put wireless technology in Bingham and Downing schools so that, for instance, if they get the iPads, then they can connect to the internet, you know, and we don't have to worry about, they have to go to a lab to connect to the internet. We wanna bring the internet into the classroom where they're learning.
Where they need it.
Exactly.
Any other questions, public comment? All right. And we will need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Patty, seconded by Colleen, what would I do without you? All in favor?
All in favor?
Meeting adjourned at 7:52. Always reminds me of that. I always mess that up.